Here I need to explain a bit of my story for why I learned and practiced it by taking the retreat in the center. I was quite suffered for my deep attachment to my late mother because my mother died of breast cancer when I was 8 years old. I loved my mother so much, I did not want to lose her. You can imagine how much the 8 years old boy who lost his beloved mother would feel at the time. I did not think that my mom died and could not accept that she died. Whenever I talk about this way of life, being mindful of everything, physical and mental and emotional, it is always related to my deep attachment to my late mother when I was a years-old boy. Without that story, I would not do this mindful way of living, or maybe called mindfulness meditation, because it was the antidote that healed my heart, my mental suffering and pain for my late mother. I read a lot of philosophy books that I thought they could probably help me lead to the way out, where is no suffering for the attachment to my beloved late mother. All the philosophy books give me a lot of knowledge that make me enjoy reading on them. But it did not make me feel better from my suffering created by my own deep attachment to my beloved late mother. I have kept reading many philosophy books on to make myself feel better, but it didn't. I used to write some philosophy poems, staying up at late night so that I could keep myself away from suffering created by my deep attachment. Now, however, it did not work very well. As the time passed, my father realized that I went a little bit crazy about my late mother. One day he came up to me and said, "My son, you have read a lot of philosophy books for years. Do you think that they are enough to help you feel better from your suffering for your attachment? If your answer is no, here's another option to make you feel better. It is his mindfulness meditation that's very popular to heal all kinds of psychological suffering. It is also very powerful to make the mind strong and healthy. Would you like to try it? If yes, please let me know." I'm very much familiar with the master who has been teaching people mindfulness meditation for years. It was the way my father recommended me at the time. I told my father, let me think. And he brought a booklet of mindfulness meditation that explained a bit of how to do it. It mentioned me while walking. I should be mindful of the walking in the 4 parts: lifting, pushing forward, dropping down, and touching. It said that I must do everything mindfully and very slowly to comprehend everything clearly. I like that kind of introduction to me because I did not like sitting long in meditation mood. I cannot do that. I realized that there was no deep and logical philosophy in the technique, but it was very practical, simple, and easy to understand its purpose. Of course, when I was in the meditation retreat center, I had to follow as they instructed by being mindful of lifting part of the foot, pushing forward it, dropping it down, and touching. I did it very seriously, observing no silence in the retreat without talking anything. I was interested to do it and enjoy it day after day. Maybe I was a meditation Buddhist in one of my past lives. Who knows? Now I have already learned it from Mahastipatthana Sutta and Mahavagga of Digha Nikaya with its commentary. All of my teachers in Mahagana Monastery taught me everything in detail. I like it very much. Mahastipatthana Sutta was touching my heart when I studied the Sutta and Pali scriptures. It was something significant I have never felt before. I put it into practice in everyday's life. When I was walking, I pay attention to the walk, but it was large to pay attention to it. I did not know the point where I should pay attention to the walk. Then I felt the touching point between the foot and the ground. I did it for more than a month by applying in my daily life. Then I updated it by my own experience to pay attention to the touching point. Since then, I have applied it in my daily lives, walking. It is now a part of my teaching on walking meditation when I conduct meditation retreat everywhere across the world. It was very practical to a day-to-day life. Whenever I teach people walking meditation, it's the technique I updated in my own experience. It is much more practical than the other one that teaches us to be mindful of 4 parts of steps: lifting, pushing, dropping, and touching. In everyday life, we cannot do this for the 4 parts of the stepping because you have to move faster than that. It is good to do in the retreat center, of course, because you do it especially in the retreat. If you become a habitual in a pattern of such way of walking, you will be very difficult to do in everyday life. Therefore, I teach people to pay attention to the touching point when you are walking. Only then will it come with you home when you go back home after taking meditation retreat with me. If you do it for 7 days retreat or retreat course with me, you get used to it. Then it is ready to come with you to wherever you go. The more habitual you become and the better you can walk in your daily life. How practical it is for how we should walk in everyday life. Whenever you walk alone to everywhere you go, you can switch on your attention and pay attention to the touching point between your foot and ground. Simply, you should be mindful of the rhythm or touching point while walking. If you're walking but paying attention to the touching point for an hour, you're meditating for an hour while walking. At the same time you walk and meditate, you do 2 things together. How great it is. Then you can experience how you live at the present moment for an hour by paying attention to the rhythm of the touching point. You can realize that you are truly at the present moment. When you are paying attention to the touching point seriously, because your monkey mind has no chance to run away from you and no chance to play with anything, then you are away from stupid stress, agitation, worry, depression, anxiety, and so on. How beneficial it is with the technique, how we should walk in everyday life. This is also the way I have walked through so far. How we should eat in everyday life. The Buddha said, Asite, pite, kaite, saite, sambhajana kari hoti. This is Pali. It means you should be mindful of eating, drinking, chewing, and licking while eating to clearly realize as they are. How interesting it is. It made me so actively entertaining whenever I eat something mindfully. I understood it much in detail. Therefore, in mealtime, I have to be mindful of the process of eating movements all in detail. I have to be mindful of touching the spoon and fork and stretching my hand to the dish and so on. When I take this curry to my plate, I have to be mindful of bringing the curry to my plate. When I touch, I have to be paying attention and mindful of the touch. When I bring it to my mouth, I have to be mindful of the movement to the mouth. When I put it into the mouth, and I have to be mindful of putting the food into the mouth. When I chew the food, I have to be mindful of chewing the food, and I have to be mindful of the rhythm of each chewing to realize it as it is by softly closing my eyes so that I can concentrate on it very precisely. At the same time, you will see the gooey rises and passes away, feeling undelicious rises and passes away, restless rises and passes away, feeling salty rises and passes away, feeling unsalted rises and passes away, and so on. There are so many things rising and passing away going on while you are mindfully eating in your own meal time. How great this meditation is, how practical it is. I love it very much. It is not happening out there somewhere else, but right here and right now in us. When we switch on our attention, we can clearly see them as they are. When we do not switch on attention, we cannot see them. I have very often said attention is like a button in a dark room. When we switch on and when we switch it on, we will see everything clearly. When we do not switch it on, we will see everything is dark. The button is there in the room, but we just need to learn how to switch on it. When you are mindful of all the movement and detail that happen with eating and meal time, it is called mindfulness. When you see greed rises and passes away, undelicious rises and passes away, a restless mind rises and passes away, it is called vipassana. Therefore, vipassana practice is completely based on the mindfulness. This is the reason why my technique is called mindfulness-based vipassana meditation. It means this is not my idea, but from the heart of the Buddha taught in Mahastipatthana Sutta. When you do it intensively and attentively, you will see that you are living at the present moment. You will see that you are away from a stupid stress at the moment when you are mindful of the movement and detail in eating. You experience with your calmness, tranquility, serenity, concentration on at the present moment when you really do it. It is called mindfulness meditation. That is very popular across the world in these days. The longer you do it, the better you experience with the benefits from your practice. The better you experience with it, the deeper you will understand it. And the deeper you understand it, the more confidently you will do it. Then just all the auspicious and blessing things will come to you. To make you happy regardless of faith and belief and religion, because your mind is quite purified and healthy and powerful by practical experience and direct contact of yourself. This is nowadays proven by scientific research. Many neuroscientists are involved in this way of life by paying attention to and by being mindful of whatever you do in any situation of daily activities. The technique becomes scientific, and the Buddha who taught this technique becomes a scientist. Those who take a retreat to put into practice become scientific researchers in the way discovered by the Buddha. Therefore, in my opinion, 21st century is a really exciting moment to see the science come across mindfulness of the Buddhism. It has actually already happened all over the world. Quite many people are getting involved in the mindfulness meditation practice. If you compare now to 20 years ago back, nobody knew what mindfulness was and what the Buddhism was too. However, in these days, quite many people have already known the word mindfulness and are getting interested in it, and it is really amazing nowadays. Sometimes I've been traveling around the world for teaching this way of life called mindfulness-based vipassana meditation. When I officially, properly and formally invited by the particular society, organization, or family, there are so many educated people, scientists, scholars, philosophers, well-known authors, and so on, who are interested in this way of life, enjoy the retreat to live mindfully in daily activities. Very recently, I have come back from Singapore after teaching a week's mindfulness-based vipassana meditation course to apply it in everyday life. Quite many people are interested in the technique, enjoy 3 or 4 hours in retreat lectures with its application in daily life. I found quite many people are interested in the technique and practice and did it seriously. I feel even encouraged to teach them how they should do it in their day-to-day life. When you take a retreat course, if you find someone who has been practicing for himself or guiding and teaching people for years, you may be quite lucky. When you take retreat course, if you find someone who has been practicing for himself, guiding and teaching people for years, you may be quite lucky to meet such a teacher because he is the one who can guide you and practice with you together by not leaving you alone in the practice. I'm always trying to do like that whenever I teach this technique to people, because this is not mere philosophy, but with the practice and its applications. I have never let people alone to practice it, but I am always with them practicing together when I conduct a retreat. Therefore, the teacher must go together with the students for closely guiding them how to apply it in practically and in daily life. If you find a teacher who just gives you a talk and leaves you alone in the practice, you may be unfortunate, because this meditation technique is, though quite simple, the experiences may be sometimes complicated. You sometimes need help from your teacher who has been really practicing it for himself. A good thing in this technique is that there is nothing to do with any religion and any faith. When I was in Europe, I told those who wanted to join the retreat should bring their faith to the retreat if they want, because your faith will not be rejected, but there is nothing to do with such a faith in the technique. You are going to learn and practice. This retreat needs you and your attention and your effort. The technique does not concern who you are, but concern how you do it. That's all. How we should stand in everyday life. The Buddha said, Tito va tito miti bhajanati. It is in Pali. It means you must be mindful of standing while you are standing. This is the instruction from the Buddha. What happens when you are mindful of standing? At the moment, when you are mindful of standing and concentrating on the standing posture, you will see that there are so many things going on, arising and passing away in your mind and body. You may probably hear voices of birds. And when you are in the forest retreat center, you may probably feel itchy on the shoulder or pain in the neck. You may probably smell from the sweet flowers. You may probably hear buzzing of mosquito around your ear like that. There's so many things that's going on, and when you are mindfully paying attention to the standing posture. Paying attention to the standing postures is called mindfulness, and seeing things as they are arising and passing away in the mind and in the body is called vipassana. Therefore, what I am teaching is called mindfulness-based vipassana meditation. Otherwise, I do not think that the technique is complete. In Burma, if you do not know about the commentaries and sub-commentaries to original Pali text or scriptures, they will belittle you. They will look down on you. Most well-versed Buddhist monks will not think that you are learned in the Pali scriptures if you have no knowledge in the commentaries and sub-commentaries to the Tipitaka original Pali texts. However, they also know that practice is the most important part of the Buddha's teaching. The practice must be based on the deep knowledge of Pali texts. Otherwise, meditation practice will not be quite perfect and complete and reliable. When you observe the standing posture by closing your eyes softly, you will find how you live at the present moment. You will see that your mind is thinking about the past and about the future. However, you who observe what's going on at the moment is living at the present moment, seeing your mind thinking about the past and the future, and seeing whatever rises and passes away within yourself. Remember that you do not control your mind when you are mindful of your standing posture, but you observe whatever rises and passes away in the mind and in the body. If you are trying to control your mind, it will be very difficult to do it because the mind is like a monkey, almost uncontrollable. It is always jumping out of you and running from one object after another, and you may probably feel that sometimes your mind is worse than monkey. It is also Quite true. It has no interest to stay with you if you are not focusing on something else. If you have idle hands, your mind will never stay with you quietly, and it will fly away from you, leaving you alone. However, you make your mind work when you are paying attention to your own standing posture. When your mind has nothing to work, it will go away jumping around like a monkey. As in an English saying, the devil makes work for idle hands. When the mind is free, it is running around, jumping round out of you, and the nature of the mind is thinking, said the Buddha. Therefore, the Buddha tamed his own mind by paying attention to the rhythm of breath. Of course, the Buddha observed everything that rose and passed away within himself when he was practicing the path to get enlightened. Believe me, when the Buddha got fully enlightened, he discovered the way how to tame his monkey mind, and therefore the Buddha wanted us to think about the reality inside physical and mental phenomena instead of thinking about things outside, so that we can develop our wisdom. Thinking about things outside can develop knowledge. We must learn that knowledge is not wisdom. Knowledge must be applied to obtain the true wisdom through the mindfully paying attention to whatever rises and passes away. Knowledge is gained by learning and deeply thinking about the external things, such as from reading books or attending the classes and listening to the lectures. But wisdom is gained through the experiences, practice, and by application. We have learned a lot of knowledge from school to university since we were young, but wisdom is very rare to gain as long as we do not observe physical and mental phenomena to see as they really are. This is the reason why we need to live mindfully in everyday's life, so that we can experience with our physical and mental phenomena. We can also gain powerful wisdom from life experiences when we have to work out the difficulties and hardships of life. Experience makes us wiser to solve a particular problem and to live very positively with such a problem in life. When we have much wisdom, we will be easy to handle all the emotions such as anger. Life makes us experience with so many positive and negative phenomena that can train us to be wise, and that can guide us how to live wisely. However, if we learn nothing from life experiences, we will still be stupid and young and childish. We should not be afraid of something going wrong, but we should be afraid of being unmindful of whatever we do. If we are mindful of what we are doing, hardly can we do mistakes in what we are doing. Therefore, we can reduce mistakes by doing things mindfully. We can lessen mistakes when we are used to being mindful of whatever we are doing. Only then can we be happy. Therefore, doing things mindfully is one of the most important things in the life. This is also the way to live happily, as everybody expects. Religious prayer can do nothing for happiness, and even God can do nothing for happiness, but you have to earn for your own happiness by doing things mindfully, if you agree with me. It is very closely connected with the popular term of meditation. When I say doing things mindfully, many people think that meditation is difficult because they do not know what meditation is, how they should do it, and from where they should begin. Actually, meditation is not out there, not away from you, but within your reach. As soon as you switch on your attention, you can see what is going on inside yourself. However, mindfulness must always be alert, wakeful, and vigilant to switch on the attention. Mindfulness is the chief of all the spiritual values according to the Buddhist teaching. Mindfulness, awareness, and attention are the key words in the way of meditation according to the Buddha's teaching. Without these key words, meditation is almost nothing. Actually, living mindfully makes you live really at the present moment. There's no other way to help you live at the present moment. What is meditation according to the Buddhism? Pali term bhavana is translated into English term meditation, but it is not actually an equivalent translation to the bhavana. Meditations are defined as emptying of the mind of thoughts or concentration of the mind on one thing in order to aid mental and spiritual development, contemplation, or relaxation. It is not the equivalent definition of the word bhavana in Buddhism. Bhavana means development of spiritual values such as moral quality, concentration, and wisdom by particularly practicing the Eightfold Noble Path. It can be called mindfulness and meditation according to Buddhism. When the Eightfold Noble Path is attentively practiced, the three trainings in morality, concentration, and wisdom would be automatically developed by practice. As you know, there are many types of meditation across the world nowadays. They have their own way of explanation on their own technical meditation. Many Western people I have met so far for many years usually ask, do you try to empty your mind when you are meditating? Or what are you thinking about when you are meditating? When I am asked like that, I immediately respond to the question. No, it is not trying to empty your mind, but try to observe whatever rises and passes away by concentrating on the rhythm or in-breath and out-breath. In meditation, according to Buddhism, there is a right thought, which is one of the factors of the Eightfold Noble Path that can develop more quality, the quality of concentration and the quality of wisdom on the path to ultimate peace. Right thought. Right thought is to preciously think of a phenomena that rises at the moment and passes away soon. It does not empty the mind, but thinks of a particular phenomenon. And the function of right thought is to send a thought to something that rises and passes away in both in the mind and the body, so that one can realize that a phenomenon which rises has a nature to pass away. There are two parts of yoked in the technique of meditation taught by the Buddha. One is samatha, another is vipassana, but both are included in the Eightfold Noble Path. And also, both the samatha and vipassana are working together in the technique of meditation. According to Buddhism, when you practice it, what is the Eightfold Noble Path? Actually, there are the Four Noble Truths, Ariya Satya, taught by the Buddha. The core of the Buddha's teaching is the Four Noble Truths, because the Buddha especially discovered them by deep and serious meditation practice. Therefore, the entire set of the Buddha's teachings is completely based on the Four Noble Truths. Whenever the Buddha finishes the talk, the Dharma talk, it is always ended in the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths are as follows. Dukkha Satya, the Noble Truth of Dukkha. Samudaya Satya, the Noble Truth of the origin of Dukkha. Nirodha Satya, the Noble Truth of the cessation of Dukkha. Magga Satya, the Noble Truth of the path leading to the cessation of Dukkha. I just want to leave Dukkha untranslated here. I will explain it later. Because it has a universal meaning, I will use this word dukkha very often with its practical meaning through the experiences in both body and mind. If it is not properly translated into another language, like from Pali into English, it can probably be misunderstood easily. When it is misunderstood, people will be unbeneficial because dukkha is not out there somewhere else, but exactly in them, exactly in us. It can be found in them and in us. It can be clearly experienced with us and with them too. The meaning and the function of Maggasacca is defined as Kilese Marinto Nibbanam Gacchati Di Margo. This is Pali in Pali scriptures. It means the path that can lead us to the ultimate peace by killing mental defilements. It is called the Eightfold Noble Path. When you practice the path, the mental defilements will be killed or eradicated, and you will be led to the ultimate peace called Nibbana, the truth of the noble truth of cessation of dukkha, which is also called Nirodha Satya in Buddhism. Here's some Pali terms, and I will explain it later. To achieve this, you have to follow the Eightfold Noble Path. There are the 8 factors in the Eightfold Noble Path. They are as follows. Samma-deity, right understanding. Samma-sankappa, right thought. Samma-vaca, right speech. Samma-kammanta, right action. Samma-ajiva, right livelihood. Samma-vayama, right effort. Samma-sati, right mindfulness. Samma-samadhi, right concentration. The Eightfold Noble Path will lead us to the end of all kinds of dukkha, translated into dissatisfaction or incompleteness or imperfection or physical and mental discomfort or dis-ease. Here I just want to remind all of you who read this now to see how I translate the Pali term dukkha into English, because usually many scholars unmindfully translated this Pali term dukkha into suffering in English. This is not a good translation for dukkha. Dukkha is very practical, experiential, applicable, realizable, touchable phenomenon in our very life. The translation of suffering for dukkha is too much in a negative sense, but dukkha is not a negative term. It is a pragmatic term, which is a part of our life. We can experience with it every moment in our very life. Life is not possible to separate from dukkha. Dukkha is not a word Buddhist monopoly, but it is a very closely related to every living being in the universe. We cannot reject it, but we can observe it and wisely overcome it by understanding. If we try to reject dukkha to live life, we will be someone who puts the screws on ourselves. We just have to accept dukkha when it comes up to our life and arises in us in our life. But do not worry too much about it. This too will pass away sooner or later. This is just the law of nature. If you do not believe in it, you can observe whatever rises and passes away within yourself. There are quite many kinds of dukkha in us. We need just to switch on attention to when it rises and when it passes away. This is the way we should live in an imperfect world that shares negative and positive energy, ups and downs with all of us in the life stream. We should see them as they are so that we cannot get involved in those kinds of negative and positive phenomena by skillfully letting go of them to be happy. Otherwise, we very often get involved in a negative phenomena too much and too long by rejecting them without doing anything because we do not want them to happen in our life. We also very often get involved in a positive phenomena too much and too long by grasping it firmly, not to get lost because we love them to happen in us. Both ways make us suffer because we do not try to understand the reality. What is samatha? Kilese sameti ti samato. It means the technique that can keep mental defilements calm at the moment when a practice is called samatha. There are 10 kinds of a mental defilement in brief according to the Buddha's teaching. They are as follow. Lobha, greed. Dosa, anger. Moha, ignorance or delusion. Mana, conceit. Ditthi, wrong view. Vicikicca, skeptical doubt. Tinamita, sloth and torpor. Uddhacca, restlessness. Ahirika, shamelessness, wrongdoing. Anuttappa, fearlessness of wrongdoing. If these 10 major mental defilements Kelasa in Pali are multiplied, there will be 1,500 mental defilements altogether. These mental defilements are like the substances that can closely defile our mind and make our mind polluted and poisoned. Therefore, we are very often defiled by one of them. When one's mind is defiled by greed, and he will want more and more for what he wants. When his mind is defiled by anger, he will become a serious, tough, rough, aggressive, and finally become violent by words and deeds. When his mind is defiled by an ignorance or delusion, he will be doubted and agitated, restless, and cannot make a proper decision for a certain solution. When his mind is conceited, he will be too much proud of himself. He will think much of himself, feeling I am a superior, more important than others, incompatible to anyone else. Then everything will be very hard to deal with him, and everything will be very hard to handle him. Therefore, when your mind is defiled by one of them, you will see how your personality is changed by one of them and one of those mental defilements. This is the reason why samatha meditation is necessarily taught by the Buddha and should be a part of our life, so that we can live quite peacefully, calmly, resilient to the experiences of hardship and difficulties in everyday life. When you do samatha meditation, you have to focus on just one object. For example, you just have to focus on the touching point of the air when it comes in and goes out when you do breathing meditation. You cannot move from one pointedness. It is good for those who specially practice samatha meditation only. It is quite suitable to ordained monk or a permanent yogi who practices it as a major job. It would be very difficult for ordinary people who lead a family life.